Liars. We all hate them. We all often wonder if people are lying to us. Except for politicians, of course. There's an easy way to tell if a politician's lying to you. He's talking. His mouth is moving. He's therefore lying. And I'm going to talk to you about how to tell if people you know are lying to you. And there's some quite good methods that I'm going to present that will allow you to tell if your husband, your spouse, your girlfriend or boyfriend or an employee is in fact lying to you. And some of these are used in police interrogations. But without further ado, let's have a look at one of the biggest liars of all time. So, how do you tell whether someone is telling the truth or not? I've decided to use this example of a well-known liar. No, not really. I'm just going to give you something to look at while I tell you. Because at the end of the day, this is one of the biggest liars on the planet. So, the thing to do is, first of all, someone's told you some kind of story about where they are, what they've been doing, and you want to check it out. Now, what you have to do is to introduce something that's been made up and see how the person you suspect of lying about where they've been or what they've been doing. So, let's just say that a woman suspected that her husband was not at golf with his friends, as he said, but was in fact out with some other woman for a late night rendezvous in a hotel somewhere. Obviously, if you ask him, did he go to golf? I mean, that's only going to prompt him to answer yes. I mean, that's pretty easy. So, what you've got to do is introduce a made-up fact, right? So what you might say is, for example, that, oh, I heard that they'd had to close the course because the police were chasing a drug dealer across it. And see what he says. Now, obviously, in this case, her husband would be faced with rather a conundrum. Because if he wasn't at golf, he doesn't know whether to acknowledge that there was some sort of police incident on the golf course, because there might not have been one. And if he says that, oh, well, it didn't happen and it did, then she'll also know that he wasn't really there. But regardless of the answer, he will do the one thing that every liar does. He will hesitate, deciding how to answer. And the more difficult you can make this conundrum, the better. So, if he had been at golf, he would have instantly said, no, there was no problems there at all. Didn't see any police. What are you talking about? But the person who's lying isn't sure because he wasn't there. And so he will hesitate and give himself away. And he'll also answer wrongly by agreeing to what you say, is most likely, because he doesn't know that you're making up the incident. So, all you have to do to find out if someone is lying about what they've done or where they are is just to introduce a piece of evidence, a made up piece of evidence, and see how they handle it. Just make sure that he must have had direct knowledge of whatever it is that you're talking about, if his story was true, and make sure the evidence is something that's plausible but not true. And then just sit back and see whether he's fast with the correct response. If he hesitates, changes the subject, gives the wrong answer, then obviously you're not getting the truth. And this is a very powerful technique. And it's a technique that the police and the FBI use a lot in interrogations. So that's one way of telling whether someone's lying to you about what they've been doing. Now, another way is called a similar scenario test. And if you suspect that someone's done something, then you'd ask a question that doesn't actually accuse them of it, but just alludes to it. And so let's say you suspect your husband is having an affair with a woman at the hairdresser's or something. Then maybe at some point in the morning you'd say, "Oh, do you know what? My boss, I think he might be having an affair with somebody at his wife's hairdresser." And then you simply ask, and simply watch his reaction. I mean, if he asks questions and gets really interested in the conversation, you can be pretty sure that he's not doing that. But if he becomes very uncomfortable and looks to change the subject, and it's likely then that he's engaged in similar behaviour, and you'll notice an immediate shift in his body language. Another example is, let's say you think that somebody who works for you is stealing from you. Now obviously, if you just ask, "Have you been stealing?" it's going to put you on them on the defensive, and it'll be impossible for you to get the truth, especially if they're a really good liar. So the best thing to do is to say something like, "Oh, you know, it's come to my attention that somebody in this place is stealing. Now, I've been racking my brains and I can't think of anything. Have you got any idea on how we can put a stop to this?" Again, if whoever you're talking to is innocent, they're likely to offer their advice and be pleased that you sought out their opinion. But if they're guilty, you'll notice them becoming very uncomfortable, and they probably assure you that they'd never do anything like that, and there's no reason for that person to bring themselves into the picture unless of course they are the one who feels guilty. This is a very effective technique. It's a psychological test. It's another thing that's used in interrogations a lot. Ask a question that doesn't accuse the person of anything but just alludes to it, and then look at their response. Now I want you to look at this section of Obama's State of the Union address very carefully, and I want you to look at his body language, specifically the shapes made by his mouth. And the mouth when you're lying is often a great giveaway. And here we go. You'll look at the suppressed smile. What you're looking for is a smile that's hidden. And it's very easy to tell without the sound on that he is in fact lying. So what you've got to do is block your ears to what is actually being said and look at the body language. Now, physical expression will be limited and stiff, and normally there'll be few arm and hand movements, but if someone's a good liar like this guy, he'll make more arm and hand movements. But most regular people, there'll be fewer, and most of the movements are towards their own body to make the liar take up less space. A person who's lying to you will also avoid making eye contact, hence the saying, shifty expression. A real giveaway is hands touching their face, throat and mouth while they're talking, especially scratching their nose or behind the ear. The timing and duration of emotional gestures are off a normal pace, and the display of emotion is delayed, stays longer than it would, and then suddenly stops. And this guy is exhibiting most of these characteristics. And very often, gestures and expressions don't actually match the verbal statement. For example, frowning when they say they're happy. And if someone's faking emotions, often the expressions are limited to mouth movements. The rest of the face stays completely stiff. And this is why I said watch this guy's mouth. Because the rest of his face, he doesn't move at all. It's like he's had 200 Botox injections. A liar will very often place objects, a book, coffee cup, or in this case, a lectern, between themselves and you. A liar will also use your words to answer a question. When asked, did you eat the last cookie? The liar answered, no, I did not eat the last cookie. So they will use your words. Why is this? Because they're so busy and stressed, they can't make up their own words. So this is some simple ways to spot liars. And some of them, you'll even catch this guy out. So go and have a look around. Look at your spouse if you think he's being unfaithful or she's being unfaithful, and look at the people around you and try out your human lie detection skills. Using these few basic techniques, they're probably an awful lot better than you would believe. Well, if you found this useful, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Harmonic, ionic, bionic, atomic. It will astonish you. It's magical and casual, actual but classical, practical and factual. Arduinotronic, harmonic, ionic, bionic, atomic. It will astonish you. It's magical and casual, actual but